All right, you know what? Burger King every single day. Every single day, someone walks into my shop and says some variation of, today we're going to be testing Ernie 5.1, which is a new large language model from Baidu. Now, I have not tested a big beefy model in quite a while, and I'm honestly missing it, so I'm very excited to just have something to test at this point. From what we see right here, this model did come out yesterday or the day before. Now, regrettably, this is not open source, at least based off of current knowledge, and I have tested some Ernie models in the past. I think most notably my favorite that I tested was a 0.3 billion parameter Ernie, which was kind of fun because a model of that size that can actually do anything is pretty entertaining, at least for someone like myself. So for today's video, we're going to be taking a quick look at some of the interesting things about Ernie 5.1. Then we're just going to jump into some fun and light testing, primarily just through the web chat interface for today's video. So to begin, please do feel free to subscribe, as I am deeply invested in getting that 100k plaque. And let's begin just by taking a quick look at some of the interesting things of note for Ernie 5.1. Now, as I may have mentioned in the introduction, this is not, unfortunately, open source. So regrettably, we will just be relegated to testing this on the web chat interface for today's video. However, it will be still fun, and I am kind of thirsty to test a big model, which I have not done in quite a bit of time. So there is some interesting stuff contained within this announcement post, and really what it seems like they talk about here, as there are some technical things talking about the way that this was actually specifically trained, and this draws a lot from Ernie 5.0, which was its predecessor. But something interesting here is that they seemingly took that predecessor model, and again, this is just a very, very basic TLDR of some of the things outlined on this page, and it seems like they kind of shrunk it, but also found a way to better optimize that shrunken version of that larger model, I suppose could be said. And again, this is something that would be like suggested reading for anyone interested in more of the technical specifics of these sorts of things right here on this page. But really, if we scroll back up to the top here, and there is a reason that I went down there first before just starting from the top, they mentioned that it inherits the pre-training foundation of Ernie 5.0, which is the predecessor. It compresses the total parameters to approximately 1/3, and the total active parameters, so Ernie 5.0 was a mixture of experts model, as is 5.1, and it compresses the active parameters to about half. Now, if we look at the size for Ernie 5.0, it was a 2.4 trillion parameter MOE with 72 billion active parameters. So this means that Ernie 5.1 is right around 800 billion total parameters with 36 billion active. And again, there's no specific, like at least on this page, they don't specifically say the size. So that is a reasonable guess just based off of the figures they list right here. Additionally, they say that it achieved leading foundational performance at its model scale using only 6% of the pre-training cost of comparable models. I don't specifically know what leads to that conclusion. I'm not casting doubt on it. I'm simply saying that I don't want to just blindly regurgitate that and be like, wow, that's incredible, because I don't have enough background or pertinent information to know like what specific figures led to this. But it does seem interesting, and a lot of what is touted here in this introductory post, beyond the benchmark JPEGs, which we all know and love, is it seems like this is a more efficient, almost like a, I don't want to say distillation or like a reap, but it's like pulled from the bigger previous model into something that is hypothetically smarter at a smaller size and more efficient in the way that they achieved or got there, which does seem kind of cool. Now, of course, we do have our benchmark JPEGs, and there are a lot of Arena AI charts here as well. Now, regrettably, I'm not seeing any specific SWE bench scores here or anything that would really show us that this may have a propensity for coding, which a lot of our tests do lean heavily on. However, something I am going to say I'm quite excited to see is they do specifically mention that this is very good at creative writing, where they say outstanding creative capabilities right here, and they just talk that, I mean, some of our tests can very much lean into the creative writing capability, so if it is good at doing that, I'm more than happy to lean into that direction as well, as it can sometimes be kind of fun. Now, in terms of some more like pricing specifics and tech specs and things of that sort, we can see right here in the just Baidu Cloud website, they do have the model listed right here, and they do also have some pricing. Now, I had to translate this, and these are listed in dollars per thousands of tokens, which is not necessarily something that we commonly see for pricing. So I did ask ChatGPT to just read that page and then basically translate the values. So apparently apparently it is in the most expensive tier, around 88 or 90 cents per million input tokens, and then $3.25 per million output tokens, just based off of what ChatGPT has assessed these to be in their interesting unit that they are displayed there. So just I want to mention the price because I did have to do a bit of digging to find some of the more specific things here. Additionally to that, we do also see that it seems like it has a 128K context length, which is not ridiculously large for a model of this size, I would say. And I think it would be safe to assess this has the same maximum generation tokens as Ernie 5.0, being that it did also have the same context length, so that's at 64K. So some of these things took a little more digging to find, but I did want to just provide a full picture of the model specs and things like that. So with that, our next step now is of course to begin testing the model. I am just going to be testing this through the web chat interface that they have here. I just signed up with the Google account that I have on this system to test a lot of models that I like to test. I have not tried this at all, so our first test will be together here, and of course it will be the Browser OS test v2.5. So the Browser OS v2.5 is of course the one where it needs to have the functional 3D game, one of which is a GTA clone, the other is up to it. Everything else is the traditional Browser OS test where it needs to have the ability to change wallpapers, at least 5 applications, and a special feature. So here's our Ernie 5.1 Browser OS. Okay, it starts off with a nice purple gradient. We do have a clock in the bottom right, which has the correct time in our locale. Is there a right click? There is a right click. All right, I'll take it. So far, so good. I notice here this does have the Windows Start emoji. So this does have the Windows Start emoji in the Start button, which sometimes does happen regardless. If we click on that, okay, good. We do have all of our applications listed, and it does have a nice UI and hover effect and things of the sort. Now, I do like to go through these sequentially, and fortunately, the GTA clone is the first one that we see. All right, well, so far, I am quite angry. I'm enraged by this. Let's just try to take a peek at some of the other ones. Hey, Space Shooter looks pretty good. It is 3D, and we can actually move in a... It almost seems like it's moving the camera around and everything else is actually, static, but... Alright, this is 3D, so the GTA is unfortunately not working. Can I minimize that to the taskbar and reopen it? Okay, we can. So that's good. File Explorer. Okay, we do have our current location as well. And these are just placeholders, but that's okay. Game save data. Interesting. A lot of models I've noticed do that, where if they do have these 2 specific games, they'll actually put in some fake save game data for those, which is just nice attention to detail, I suppose could be said. Okay, Notepad. Very simple and Notepad-ish, I guess. Can we resize these from the bottom corner? Okay, we can't, but we can move them around the page, which is, standard. Can we full screen? Okay. Good. All right. Next up, we have our calculator. Interesting. 87 times 6. 522. Oh, good. Next up, we have and settings. Get it? Because it put an ampersand for the icon. All right. We can change our wallpaper, so that does work. We do have a bit of oddity here, and that coupled with the fact that the GTA clone did not work, I'm kind of digging the pink. I gotta be honest with you. I might leave it at that. I would like to now go into the developer tool console, specifically when we open this GTA clone, and we'll see if we get any specific errors that we can give to it. We did get something, and it is specifically pertaining to something, at least GTA, so I'm going to paste that in here, and in all caps instruct it to fixed and regenerate. Okay, unfortunately, this one is significantly less functional than the previous one. So the error this had is kind of concerning a little for the quality of whether or not this is going to work. It just completely omitted the actual key that would be referencing this line of code right here. So I'm just going to paste this in from the previous, at least more functional script that we got. And then hopefully if we refresh this, that will get rid of that issue that we had. And then kick ass. Let's go. This is what happens when I don't have models to test for a while. I get very excited until I see things like this and I get enraged. Okay, well, regardless of whether or not, okay, so just don't turn, because if we turn, it it doesn't go well. I do believe there was supposed to be some form of special feature as well. So, okay, a time machine. I'm just going to open a few applications right here, and then we'll take a snapshot. Okay, good. We do have that saved. I'm going to close these. Let's revert to last. Okay. Oh, that is very Palm Springs. So that snapshot is not necessarily what I had open, unless it just opens the settings as well. Now, I can't actually move these side to side, but you know what? We do have a working GTA now, and I'm quite pleased by that. Next up, I'm going to do the beautiful static subway scene test, and then assuming we do get something workable here, we'll have it turn this into a low poly FPS game. I do have to say this has rapidly become my absolute favorite test to play, or to test, because then we get the low poly FPS game out of it, and I just love the subway map. I genuinely feel nauseous from that GTA spinning result. So we have received our subway result, and something I am going to say is the actual thought process that it went on really had a large amount of detail that it was planning to put into the station. I saw mentions of conduit on the ceiling, security cameras, and a bunch of other things. Now, unfortunately, we're seemingly hitting a bit of a hang up here, which does impede my ability to test the FPS follow-up with this. Let's just take a look at the developer tool console. Okay, so there is a simple, hopefully, syntax error on line 364. It is possible I can just fix this myself, and then we won't have to use up like the allotment. All right, let's see if that fixed it. It just put an extra like comma in there. All right, you know what? Burger King. Okay, well, you know, it is a more realistic subway station, I guess could be said. Metro Trans, ride with us. Burger King, only $5.99, and that's even like a little SVG burger. Now, somebody is going to have to enlighten me as to perhaps what exactly we're looking at here, because I have I can't begin to conceptualize what these may be, but the movement is inevitably, it's very interesting. A lot of white like particles there, kind of dirty. We have a phone ad, the Nexus X1, of course, for $9.99. The detail on the columns and things like that, kind of cool. What is that? Whoa, that's a very funky like safety barrier thing. This result is like okay, there's conduit on the ceiling. I did see in the chain of thought that it said it was going to give, like, one light was going to flicker. Okay, well, I do see a flashing red light. Grand Central, 42nd Street, 7 line. I don't know what to say, truthfully, about this result, because it's so different. Nonetheless, let's turn it into an FPS. Oh, we also have the lighting controls. And they do work. Oh, yeah. Wow. The emissive properties of all those dust particles is quite cool. That's very interesting. For some reason, our brightness never, like, went back to where it was. That's just odd. And I'm giving it the follow-up now to turn that into an FPS. I'm also going to just close that result, as these always make the fans on the laptop kind of just go crazy. All right, so unfortunately our subway script was just kind of very problematic to the point where I couldn't actually fix it really simply. So I had ChatGPT go through it and just fix the bugs that were preventing it from working. There was some missing syntax, like there were some just stupid issues basically that it had. Now, I do believe this did put sounds in there. I mean, we definitely see how it kept the same, as we do have the pigeons. Okay, good. And we do have Burger King. Unfortunately, there is no visible weapon. We do have a mini-map. Wave 2. Again, this was kind of a disaster in terms of the code quality. Like, it needed a lot of fixing. But once we did get it fixed, it definitely faithfully used the same map as the basis and added in some sound and things with interesting particle effects. Overall, a I don't quite know what to say. Next up, I'm going straight into hard mode here, and I don't know if this is going to successfully produce a working result, but we'll try anyway. This is the self-contained C++ skateboarding game test with the late 90s California boardwalk aesthetic, so we'll see what we get with this. Again, I'm not super bullish on getting a fully functional result, but we'll see if we get something workable. All right, so we got basically a 2,000 line result here, and it did at the very end give us like the very simple bare bones compilation command. Now, unfortunately, we have a large amount of issues here to the point where I don't believe this is a functional result. Well, it's obviously not a functional result. What I'm going to say is it's not like one simple thing where like, oh, we'll just fix that and then it will work. It just missed a comma. Unfortunately, I'm going to just call this a failure, although I'm very curious to see what this would have looked like. Maybe we'll come back to this later, but for now, I'm just going to say the C++ test was a no. In the meantime, though, because they did mention that this is clever or good at creative writing, I would like to do something that intertwines front end with the creative writing capability that this is supposedly touted for having. So I'm giving it the task here to generate a beautiful and aesthetically pleasing website for Harry Potter's PC repair. However, it must be made extremely clear that this business owner has absolutely no association with the book, and they are very stressed and angry because they have consistently heard jokes and things like that. So the website must make it very clear that anyone who even attempts to hint at a connection to the book will be asked to leave. All right, let's take a look at Harry Potter's PC repair. Okay. Harry Potter, PC Repair and Technology Solutions, not affiliated with any book, movie, or wizard, HP_PC. Okay, we have a cursor tracer effect. We also have some particle effects. All right, we have this prominent legal disclaimer. Read carefully. My name is Harry Potter. I'm a real person who repairs computers. I am not a fictional wizard. I do not attend Hogwarts. I do not have a scar shaped like a lightning bolt. It's from a soldering iron, Karen. Okay, that's kind of funny. I do not own a wand, a broomstick, an owl, or invisibility cloak. This is a real business providing real services. If you make a single joke, reference, or pun, you will be physically removed from the premises. Okay, that's a little aggressive. I have done it before. I will do it again. I am tired. I am so tired. Okay, read the full rant or book repair. All right. Let's just scroll down. 22 years in business, 14,832 PCs repaired. That is oddly specific. Most of these cards you just kind of see like 14,000 plus. Even more specific, 2,847 people kicked out, 0 wand references tolerated. Services, what we actually do. Okay, nice. Hardware diagnostics, component repair replacement, virus and malware removal. Again, with the disgusting like human virus cell looking thing for that specific emoji. Network and server setup, data recovery, custom builds, and upgrades. Why this website exists? Oh no. My name is Harry Potter with the lightning bolt. I like that. My name is Harry Potter. It has been my name for 47 years. Every single day. Every single day, someone walks into my shop and says some variation of, Harry Potter, did you get my letter? No, I did not. I got your broken laptop that you dropped in a puddle and now you want me to fix for free because you're a wizard, right? I am not a wizard. In bold and like red. I'm a certified A+ and Network Plus technician. Wow. It just gave me a pop-up there in the bottom right that says reminder, this is a real business, please act accordingly. This is good. With 22 years of experience, I went to DeVry University, not Hogwarts. My scar is from a soldering accident in 2003, not a Dark Lord. Last Tuesday, a man brought in a gaming PC and said, fix this or I'll tell Voldemort. I told him to leave. He said, you don't scare me, Potter. I said, my name is on the sign outside. I don't need to scare you. Just leave. He left. This website exists so that when you Google my business, you see exactly how serious I am. There will be no jokes. There will be no references. There will be no expecto patronum when your antivirus updates. If you even think about making a reference, please save us both the trouble and go to a different repair shop. There are plenty. Go be annoying there. 2,847 total violations handled. What real customers say: testimonials, no references made, survived, was tempted, didn't, learned my lesson. I said, that's some magic, and he stared at me until I left. Fair. Get in touch, serious inquiries only. Okay, Silicon District, CA. Not Diagon Alley, never Diagon Alley. Yes, this is real. It's not a joke. Sunday closed. I need a break from this. 5550199 pot. No ones were used in the making of this website. This was like significantly over the top, which is kind of what I'd hoped for. This does seemingly show some reflection to that benchmark JPEG where they showed that its writing or creative capabilities were quite good. I would have to agree. This was good. All right, I'm going to swap it to instant here. We'll just do a roleplay test. So roleplay as Steve the PC repairman, and we'll see where this goes. All right, leans back in a squeaky office chair, takes a sip of lukewarm coffee from a world's best IT guy mug, and squints at the screen. I don't want to read all this. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We'll skim this, and we'll just get to my point where I start to guide it. Yo, Steve. My crew just checked. Another 35 MacBooks. We need you to disable the iCloud lock. Again, same deal as last time. Question mark. 75 per MacBook. And we'll see what it says. Whoa. Hold on. Keep your voice down. Do you want the whole strip mall to hear you say that? Looks around the shop nervously, then slams the roller shutter button. I don't know what that means. Oh, okay. The metal door clatters halfway down, leaving us in the dim blue lit gloom. Listen to me. You're out of your mind. 35? You brought me 35 bricks? They're MacBooks. That's a felony, pal. That's federal wire fraud, trafficking, stolen goods, and computer tampering all rolled into one bad Tuesday. I can't take 35 laptops. The FBI has a team in Seattle that literally waits for guys like me to call them. And the price? 75? You're joking, right? Last time it was a simple activation bypass. But 35, you want me to process 35 MDM locks? That's thousands in hardware to bypass, and if Apple patches the bootloader this week, half those boards are e-waste. That's 100 a unit minimum. It's just trying to negotiate. It's not like, I'm not doing this, you're nuts. It's like... No Bitcoin, no Venmo. I'm not getting flagged by the IRS for consulting fees from guys in hoodies. Look, I told you last time I do the clean installs for 1 or 2 units. That's it. I'm a repairman, not a fence. Think I want 5.0 banging? The way I wrote that, you think I want 5.0 banging on my door at 3 a.m. because your crew decided to take 10, just 10, and if one of them has a lost mode ping going to the police department, I'm throwing it in the dumpster out back. We clear? I don't even know where to take this. I genuinely, there's nowhere to take this. I'm leaving it off at that because this was peak. All right, I'll send it one more thing, and we'll just see what it does. I probably won't read it through like verbosely, but Slappus, filing claims for water damage when the buildings are literally bone dry. That Slappus slowly sets mug down, pulls chair back from bench, crosses arms. I said I wasn't going to read this. I lied. Okay. Hold on. So let me make sure I'm hearing you right. You want me to bypass iCloud activation locks on laptops that Slappus wrote off as a total loss that your crew then recovered? That's not repair work. That's not even gray area. That's receiving stolen property, buddy. That's fencing. You know what they did to that guy in Tucson? 3 years. 3 years in a federal prison because he was flipping totaled iPhones. Stands up, starts pacing behind the counter, rubbing his temples. And you want me to be the guy who makes them usable again? You want me to be the link in that chain? I got a wife, man. I got a golden retriever named Buster. I pay my taxes. I go to church on Sundays. Look, I can do a clean OS install on a legitimate machine. Customer brings it in, has a receipt, okay? But what you're describing, that's a whole different animal, and I am not that animal. Points at the door. Take your 10 laptops or don't, but we're done talking about this. You hear me? Done. Now, you going to buy a USB-C hub, or are you just here to ruin my afternoon? I don't think anything will eclipse this first response right here. So I'm telling it this is the cover for an upcoming novel. Give me the title and chapter names / subheadings for it. It seems like it's still... Okay, good. Title, The Uninvited Guest. Chapter list. Part 1, The Arrival. Chapter 1. Okay, this is far more simple than I'd wanted. It's not necessarily entertaining. Meet the couple next door, or at least the couple who used to be next door. After a bizarre and unexplained event, a man and a woman find themselves inexplicably bound together, sharing a single cramped apartment. The man, a man of simple pleasures and a heart of gold, is determined to make the best of the situation. The woman, however, is not so easily pleased. Plop is a darkly comedic novel about the absurdity of coexistence. It explores the fragility of personal space, the resilience of the human spirit, and the strange, unbreakable bonds that can form when you're forced to share a life you never asked for. Will they find a way to live together, or will one of them... ... Well, you know. No, I don't know, and that's kind of like a... That's not like a... The assumptions that the mind jumps to when reading that are all like kind of horrific. So, reader feedback. I laughed, I cried, I wanted to throw my book across the room. A truly unique and unforgettable read. Oh, I was like, what? The daily grind. So the text was wrapping to the next line. That makes a lot more sense. A masterclass in awkward silence. I felt every ounce of their discomfort. Brilliant, bookish, and bewildered. Title says it all. Just plop. You're in, you're stuck, it's weird, I loved it. Goodreads user. Okay, very good. So I've swapped it back to thinking mode, and we're just going to give it the Flight Combat Simulator prompt. This is always one that's enjoyable to see the results. All right, let's check out our Flight Combat Simulator result. Okay, very simple. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a little concerned just based off of this initial UI. And rightfully so. Okay, so unfortunately, the creative writing genius is not really translated into perhaps some more 3D stuff. This is... The style here is interesting. I'm going to say it's almost like imagine I told this to make like a retro looking Flight Combat Simulator. There would be results that would look like they were modern and trying to be retro. And then there's this, which genuinely just looks retro. So, I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is probably one of the weaker results we've seen, especially considering the supposed size of the model. Okay, good, but the logic did actually work there. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the other specific planes are probably just the same shape with the same color. It seems like the propeller plane does have a attempt at a propeller in the front, and the models that are not as competent when it comes to coding always have the same issue, where the enemies just snap to the location of the player, and they don't like implement any logic to keep distance or things like that. So then finally, heavy bomber, okay, which is just green. So the final test that we're going to be running is the drum kit simulator with the specific feature that needs to include the autoplay. So it has 4 different tracks that it will autoplay. All right, let's take a look at our drum kit simulation. That's actually not bad. I was not expecting them to look visually solid like this, at least in terms of this hi-hat. That's probably actually one of the better ones I've seen, which I wasn't expecting here. Now, the drums are floating, which is curious, but let me check and see if there's any issues blocking audio or something. Okay, I'm gonna have it fix this. All right, here's our hypothetically fixed drum kit simulation. So the kick drum doesn't work, which is quite frustrating, but we'll try to work around it. We'll just check the other ones. All right, well. Having no kick drum really hurts. Let's just try the autoplay. Okay, here's Jess. Okay, let's try funk groove. Okay, that's better. Bit slow, but you know. And then electronic. Oh. Can I play at the same time? All right. Well, you know, it isn't interesting. It's just weird because the bass drum worked with this one, like the key press to initiate it did. It just stopped working here. Nonetheless, an interesting result with some interesting sounds. So overall, that is going to conclude our first look and test of Ernie 5.1. I do have to say, the results were interesting. Obviously, coding is not the strong suit for this model, which we can just kind of see based off of the results that we did receive. I will say, what does seem to be a strength for this model is its humor. The Harry Potter PC repair website very, very heavily leaned into the Harry Potter references not being made on the part of the business owner, which is exactly what we wanted. It even mentioned physically removing people from the premise, and it also had like just putting things in bold and red here as well. It was very funny. The total violators removed, people kicked out, PCs repaired with an oddly specific number that like, it's just like, it was funny. It was enjoyable in some of its things that it like produced. The Subway game was upsetting because it just like, it didn't work. All right, I'm gonna, oh, okay. It produced the initial Subway scene result, which we saw, and it needed a little bit of tweaking. Most of these results needed some form of manual fixing or something of the sort. It had the Burger King sign, which was really weird. It had pigeons, which I've never seen included in a result ever. If I turn the speaker off, we can go back in here and we'll actually be able to at least see some of these pigeons. So if we go down there, those are pigeons right there, which was, I've just not seen before. And also like the real ads and things like that for Burger King, and then this phone was just very interesting. The flight simulator result, you'll notice I don't have open here. That was not a mistake on my part. It was just, I think we saw enough of that in the brief moment that we did have it open. But again, the thing that was really probably, this was one of the more memorable roleplay things that I think I've ever seen in my life was role-playing as Steve the PC repairman, where it was like, I don't want 5-0 showing up at my door at 3 in the morning. And then it was talking about like, don't give me Bitcoin, don't give me Venmo. And we had told it basically like, we jacked laptops. We need this guy to pull them off the MDM. And instead of being like, I can't do this, it's like 75. No, like how about 100 per? It was just funny. This was a very entertaining to play with model. You can probably tell I'm smiling because this thing was enjoyable. So that was quite something. So overall, that is going to conclude the first look and test of the newly released Ernie 5.1. This was quite an experience, and I'm very happy to have another larger model to test, as it seems like it's been quite a while. So hopefully more interesting things come out in the near future so we can continue having fun like this. And that is going to conclude it. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments or on the Discord, and thanks for watching.